Hello, MDC and Dimos friends. My name is Anahí and I welcome you to Expertos en Gestión de Destinos, Destination Management Experts, one podcast made by MDC Magazine and the Encuentro OMDs Iberoamérica, the meeting of Dimos Iberoamérica. So Julio Valdes drives the podcast with me. He's the president of this important event, which is going to have a meeting with a marketing leader destination. Today, we have as guest John Lambeth, president and CEO at Civitas. We did this interview the past July in the frame in Destination International Annual Convention in Dallas. We start now.
Sure. John, thank you very much for your time. We are in the frame of this wonderful event, the Annual Convention of Destinations International in lovely city of Dallas. And we start to this podcast to share with the Latin American DMOs the ways they can have solved the issue of the funding of the DMOs. And thank you for your time. And please tell us a little bit about Civitas and what is the TID? That is a model that you explained me like a couple of years ago, that wonderful model.
Thank you, Julio. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be talking to you. Civitas is a private company that works with destinations around the world on funding initiatives. So we help destinations with funding. We help them with private, public, all different kinds of funding. But by far, the most successful kind of funding that we're seeing really across the globe right now for destinations is something called, as you said, Tourism Improvement District. And essentially what these are, they look a little bit like bed tax in that they are a levy on hotels, but they're different in that they're not a tax. They usually are labeled as an assessment or fee. They must show benefit back to the hotels, and that keeps the money from being diverted. And when the industry knows the money can't be diverted by government for something else, then the industry gathers support and really wants to do it. So we now have over 209 of these around the world.
Wow.
7 of them are in the UK. To our knowledge, there are none in Latin America. We have many of these in California and in 22 other states in the US. Asia, there are several countries in Asia that are looking at doing this as well. But it provides a stable, reliable, dedicated source of money for the destination that can't be diverted by government.
That sounds great. I remember last year in the convention in Toronto, you managed a panel that was called Show Me the Money or something like that. And a lady from Boston, I think, she said, I was tired to asking the government to give me the money of the room tax.
Yes.
And they decided to contact you, and I think they solved it.
Yes, they did.
Do you have some cases that you can share with us?
Oh, we have many case studies. Many of the larger destinations in the U.S., all the large destinations in California, all have this kind of a mechanism. Many of my DMO leader friends call that ask the annual begathon, where they're begging for money. Basically, they're just asking with their hand out. And this is a different model. This isn't just coming in and asking. This is saying we can put together a funding source, and we as an industry are going to step up and raise more money if we know the money can't be diverted for anything else. And in Boston's case, they were getting their total budget was about $8 million a year. And we went through a process. We got new state legislation in Massachusetts, and they went through a process of putting this district together. And do you know what their annual budget is now?
No.
$40 million a year.
Wow.
They went from $8 million to 40 per year. So she, for example, she just recently won a bid for World Cup. And she said, under our old budget, we couldn't even have bid on World Cup. And now not only did we bid it, but we won it. And it's because we have the resources we need to be able to do an event like that.
Wow, that sounds great. And tell me, you mentioned something about the legislation.
Yes.
What is the process? We need to work with the private sector, then with the legislator, the government. How does it work?
Yes, we generally need, because this isn't just a voluntary program, right? There are voluntary programs out there where if people sign up, then those people that sign up participate. But the problem with a voluntary program, when you're trying to lift a destination, is some people participate and some don't. And so you have what we call a free rider problem. People that are getting the benefit but aren't paying and aren't participating. And so what we want to do is create a level playing field. We want to know, and a hotel wants to know, if they're in and their guests are paying, everybody is in and their guests are paying, right?
Okay.
So if they're paying, the hotel across the street is paying, the guests are paying, it's a level playing field. And the only way we can do that is if we have government involvement. And so what we need from government is usually legislation, might be at the national level, might be at the provincial level.
Okay.
But it basically says, if you get together and you organize, and if you vote on this, and usually it's a 50% vote,
Okay.
and you go through that process, then everybody is in.
Okay.
Whether you're supportive or not. If the majority wants to do it, then it's in, and the money is dedicated back to the industry.
That sounds great, because this is give you, I mean, I'm talking about Mexican destination or Latin American destination, the option for not having on board only the hotels. You're talking about restaurants, any other kind of tourism suppliers, or?
Some districts have been hotel and lodging only. Other districts have included restaurant. Some have included retail and attractions. Each destination decides what is the fit for them.
Okay. Wow. Sounds right. Any question, Anahí?
With the tax of hotel tax, do you work with this?
Yes. And you already have, I think most of your hotel tax is around 19%, if I remember right, already.
And well, in Mexico, it's from 2% to 5% added to the VAT.
Above the VAT. And the VAT is
16.
16. Okay, so
It's
you
gonna
got
be
some that are
Between
Yeah.
17 in total up to 22.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's true in a lot of other countries too. We have destinations in the US that are in that high range, in that 20-21 range on the very high end, but most are below it.
Yeah.
The work we're doing in Europe, most of them have a 20% VAT.
Okay.
And they're putting this on top, but they're doing a very small amount. And what we found is you might do, maybe it's 1% or
Yeah.
2%.
Okay.
But if all of that money comes back to the industry to control, it's a significant pot of money that you can really get some things done with. That's what we're discovering. So 2% is the most common TID amount.
Okay.
Some people are 1%, some are 3%, some are a half. Some charge, instead of a percentage, they charge based on a fixed rate per occupied room per night. So like $1, $2, $3, like that, in addition to the tax. So it is an add-on, but we're very careful. We're being very modest, and we want to make sure that the hotels are not negatively impacted by a very small charge. And what we found is, over and over again, if we keep it small, and if the hotels are educated, boy, they become very supportive, and it works very, very well for them.
Let me see. If working on a geographical area, what happens is we decide to work with a district, and we have hoteliers around that district that are not involved. They're going to benefit from that. How do you handle that?
Most of our districts are citywide or countywide. Some of them are multiple cities. So in Los Angeles, it's citywide. In San Diego, it's citywide. In other jurisdictions, it's countywide. But there are a few that are smaller. So the district we did in Tampa, Florida, that just includes the downtown Ybor area. And they wanted to just start in the downtown, and they're just focused on those hotels.
Okay.
And so to the extent they generate leads for business, only those hotels get those leads.
Okay.
So there is some of that. But if you're promoting the entire destination, if you're saying, come visit Tijuana or wherever, then you want to make sure that it's broader and that it's citywide or multiple cities.
Okay, well, I hope we can find a way to bring you to Mexico and Latin America, because, well, you say it's a dream for a lot of tourism companies. The word you say, the government cannot divert money. That's
critical.
the main problem we have in Mexico right now, in Latin America.
And it's a problem all over the world. Our hotel taxes here get diverted all the time. Every conference, we hear of a new state or a new destination that's lost their money, or the government has passed some new law so they can move the money someplace else. We can't win. The only way we can win is to think of a new paradigm, a new way of doing this, a new legal structure that makes sure that money can't go somewhere else.
What do you think is going to be, could be the first step to start to analyze in Mexico or Latin America to improve the TID?
I think first it would be to get some industry leaders supportive. So, I mean, we want to see lodging or other tourism businesses, a few leaders in those industries say, hey, if we could do this, and if we could put something like this in place in our destination for, let's say, 5 years or 10 years, and usually these have a term, and they go for a period of time, and at the end of that term, they sunset. And the only way they continue is if everybody comes and votes again for it, and the hotels say we want it. That way it makes it very accountable, meaning everybody knows you've got to get results, or this is going to go away and it's not going to continue. And so they're put in place for a period of time, but it's really at the industry's urging. It's that the industry is leading these efforts. So one, I would say, is to get industry leaders together around this concept and get some support for the concept. And then second would be to look at what kind of legislation could we do? At what level of government do we do it? And what does that legislation say to be able to create something like I've described?
It's going to depend of every destination. I was thinking it may be a local level, the state level, or even federal level, depending on the country. I think it's likely to either be state or federal, and not just local, because generally speaking, we need a new law to say, if you local want to do this, this is the process you go through to put this together. And that law, that law doesn't raise any assessments, doesn't raise any money. It just says, here's a process. Then a local community, when they want to do it, they go through that process. They write a plan of what they're going to do. They come up with the boundaries. What is the boundaries? How much is the charge? How much money do they raise? What's the governance from the industry going to look like? In other words, who sits on the board that decides where this money goes? All of that goes into a plan that then the industry votes on. And if the industry passes it and local government pass it, then it's in place for that term. My final question of this instead of room tax or beside the room tax in every destination?
So it's almost always over and above the room tax, because we have found, I mean, there's a lot of places that would like to reduce the room tax and put this in, right?
I'm in the hotel here right now.
But once that money's already out there and there are already constituencies, people that are getting that money, it's very hard to take it away. And so what we found, we encourage our destinations to, of course, fight for every dollar they can of existing tax and fight against other taxes. But once you've done that, then this is a solution to have a very small increase that can make a very big difference to their bottom line. And let me just mention, most of these districts, because they are industry-led, are very focused on return on investment. And so most of them, like Boston, when they get a big infusion of money like that, they're spending a lot tracking their results. So they can tell the hotels very specifically, this is how many room nights we got from this expenditure. This is how many room nights we got from that expenditure. And so there is a very specific return on investment number that they can go to them with. And on the low side, when we measure against hotel room revenue compared to how much money we raise, on the low side, we see 3-to-1. And on the high side, in San Diego, we see numbers like 25-to-1.
Wow.
And so that means for every dollar that we raise, we're raising $25 in extra hotel room revenue that they would not have otherwise had. And that's very compelling to the hotels. The hotels say, if you can do that, we are on board and we'll try it. We'll try it for 5 years. Let's see if you can do that. But if you can produce those kinds of financial results for us, we'll give it a try.
That sounds right.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure. Julio, see you later.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for listening today. We will meet soon in the 5th meeting of Dimos Iberoamerica, the next 11 and 12 of September in Mexico City with Julio and other destination management experts. See you!